Hey, it's Gerald from Lakers Fast Break. Anchor is the easiest way to make your next podcast. It's absolutely free, and their creation tools will allow you to record and edit your show right from your phone or your home computer. Anchor will then distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on great podcast outlets like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Radio Public, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can even make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So download the free Anchor app today or go to anchor.fm to get started on your next podcast. And we're back for another episode of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Pop Culture Cosmos, the Lakers Fast Break, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and Game Source. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our great shows. And if you can, as I always ask, please give us that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We truly appreciate it. And, if anybody out there loves the NBA and loves the Lakers, please tell them about the Lakers Fast Break. We could use all the support we can. It is truly appreciated and cannot thank you enough for doing so. Also want to give a shout out to NBA Draft Junkies and also Lakerholics.net, some great supporters of ours. We truly appreciate everything they do for our show. But it is going to be a great episode. I've had some many great conversations and still more to come. And on my next conversation coming up here, I'm going to go ahead and run down the entire list of interviews that you can be looking forward to because there's just so many. I didn't want to go ahead and detract too much from my guest here because I might be going for a while. But I'm going to go ahead and give everybody an update on all what's going on here at the Lakers Fast Break coming up in the next couple of weeks or so. But right now I have a tremendous guest. If you have not yet seen his awesome site, Talk2ME Sports Radio on Blog Talk Radio and heard his awesome show, you're missing out, especially if you're an LA sports fan. You got to go ahead and check it out today. That's Talk2Me, right there for you, all one word, Talk, the number 2, and Me, Sports Radio on Blog Talk Radio. It's right there on the screen for everybody watching on Facebook Live. It is Melvin Washington III, and Melvin, I know we were talking a little bit beforehand about our LA backgrounds a little bit. I lived in LA for about 25 years. I was born in Southern California. So I have a great affinity for it, and I know you are as well. And I know talking about the Lakers is something that is, and the NBA for that matter, is something that you and I both just cannot do enough of.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of the similar background too as well. I was born and raised in LA, so basically all LA teams, Lakers, Dodgers, SC Trojans, now the LA Rams, since they relocated back to LA 3 years ago. So I'm born and raised in LA. I live here in Vegas now. We got a lot of things that's going on here now with the Raiders coming here this year. Also the Golden Knights, for hockey. And then, we get the NBA Summer League and the rodeo. And then
I was pumping my fist on the Golden Knights because, I'm also a Vegas resident since 95. So, you and I both have seen that, okay, we've got this great affinity for LA sports. But to see this, this new team do well, it's really a great story.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't think that Vegas was capable of supporting a pro team with all the things that are going on, especially with the hospitality side, with the gambling and the casinos and everything like that. So it's kind of great to prove them wrong that, we can support not one, but multiple professional franchises. With the Raiders coming here, we got the Las Vegas Aces WNBA team here too as well. So we got the NHL affiliate that's coming here next year, I believe, the Henderson Silver Knights. And
they have an arena right near you.
Exactly, yeah. Because I'm actually right across the street from the Raiders practice facility and across from the M Casino Resort, where that's the official team headquarters for the Las Vegas Raiders too as well. So I was literally watching that thing get built from the ground up since they broke ground on it. So
I was not the most enthusiastic about Allegiant Stadium because of the large cost and how much the taxpayers were ultimately. because you and I both know, originally there was supposed to be one set amount that was going to the taxpayers as far as the bill. And then it turned out to be another because the private parties involved didn't or couldn't or didn't, most likely didn't decide to go ahead and put as much money into it. So more taxpayer money. And people just say here in Vegas, oh, just throw it at the tourist. Throw all that money at the tourists. Well, the thing is, if you make it more expensive for the tourists, they're not going to come to Vegas.
Yeah, I think they were hoping that, like you said before, that is Las Vegas, that people are going to come for their 3-day weekends, and just on the weekends, drive a lot of people from California driving down on Friday and leaving Sunday morning. So I think they were just banking on for that still to not change at all with the tourism.
If they get a monorail system here that actually is working with all the pieces that you and I both know that they have, it's like a puzzle that's not finished. If they ever finish that puzzle and make it really nice and streamlined, you know what? All more power to it. But I will tell you that I am happy about the Golden Knights' success. I wish them luck in their own bubble up north in Canada. I wish it would have been here in Vegas. I wish either of the bubbles would have been here in Vegas. I think actually right now the players in the NBA wish they was kind of like in Vegas, because we've seen the pictures. I know you have on social media, and I know I've seen some out on social media already as far as the conditions, as they say, of some of the bubble contestants as far as that's concerned. And let's just say it's a little bit humorous from time to time.
Yeah, it was definitely eye-opening when you see the players who have arrived, with their teams to the bubble, just seeing the conditions of the hotels that they're in, the conditions of the food, and then everything that has to go with it along with that. So it's kind of shocking right now to see what it is, but I'm sure once, games get back up and on, everything will get better with it. So
I'm hoping so. And once the games actually start, or at least even the scrimmages, that's going to come up around I think the 22nd, if I'm not mistaken, that the focus will be more on that than the actual conditions. I hope the conditions will get better. I was kind of surprised. I've been to Orlando a couple times myself, visited Disney World, been in and around hotels. My daughter is a Disney. One of my daughters is a Disney aficionado, just loves everything Disney, and she said, "Oh, that's a great place to stay and whatnot." Then you're seeing all this other side of it, and that's kind of, I don't know. I wouldn't say concerning, because it's stuff that maybe you and I would have to go through if we're just going down there as regular tourists going down there. But these NBA players, which are used to the 5-star, the ultra top of the line hotels and whatnot, maybe like a difference, a shock for them, a shock to the system per se.
Yeah, I mean, who's to say, what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks? I know, I think the NBA you got to commend on the job that they did for them putting this thing together in the first place. And I know things are going to pick up. These athletes are used to their own personal, maybe chefs or anything like that, come in, cook them home cooked meals and everything like that. So I'm pretty sure we won't see LeBron James eating a elementary school lunch for every day. So, you know what I mean? So I don't think we have to worry about that for the time being right now.
That's funny. Yeah, that's the best way to say it. Very well said. Very well said. Because I've already seen social media pictures of his trainer go down with him, and he had on the mask and the whole 9 yards. So, the exclusive 35 to 37 people you had to include, make sure and take care of LeBron and what he's doing, because he and AD are the most valuable individuals going into the bubble this time for the Los Angeles Lakers. And that brings me to the point of, you're right, that the NBA should get credit for trying to create this bubble and make it as safe as possible. I mean, this is not cheap. This is not cheap at all. I mean, we're talking, I think at least $100 to $200 million that the NBA is going to dish out and spend on this bubble before all is said and done.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely had a plan in place. So you got to give Adam Silver and everybody in the league credit for them wanting to actually resume the season after it was stopped. So you got to give them credit for at least them, trying to create a solution for trying to resume the season and pick up where they left off. And obviously, wish it was here in Vegas, but I think Orlando is the best spot that they thought they would have a better chance of doing that. So I think it will work. I know it's going to be a lot to get used to. You're going to have some teams that's going to be there for, about 3 months, which is going to be, you play, you stay. If you lose, you go home. So you know what I mean? So you keep winning. And if you hold that trophy at the end of the year, then it's all worth it.
And that's something I also want to ask you is, how important is this specific championship going to be? Because the talk that's been out there for last week was really hot. Should the NBA champion get an asterisk? Or similar to when San Antonio won during the strike-shortened season? I don't think so. In actuality, that I think that whoever wins, I'm hoping it's the Lakers personally, that whoever wins in this type of scenario, in this type of situation, that's going to be there quarantining for 3 months essentially, deserves in these types of conditions to be expounded on as one of the greatest championships of all time.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just think about it from, just speaking on the Lakers standpoint, they were one of the hottest teams in the league right now. They just come up, they had a huge weekend that previous weekend, beating Milwaukee on that Friday night, and then beating Clippers on that Sunday showcase game. Obviously, they took a loss to Brooklyn that Tuesday before the league shut down. So you look at a team like the Lakers right now, this is going to dictate how they're going to move forward in the future, with Frank Vogel being the first-year head coach. Jason Kidd is having some serious head coaching interest from other teams around the league, and Anthony Davis will be a free agent this year. So, and the Lakers have won each decade. They won the last two championships. They won in 2000 when they had their first three-peat, and they won in 2010 when they went back-to-back against Boston in that seven-game series. So this is a very important year for them to get off to a good start, and just everything that happened with the Lakers this year in the NBA as far as with the whole Daryl Morey with China issues, and then they had David Stern pass away, and then obviously Kobe Bryant, tragically passed away. So, I mean, I just think if the Lakers were able to hold the trophy, I think this will be something that'll be memorable and this will be something that will speak on their legacy forever.
This will probably be, in my opinion, it sounds like a lot in yours as well, that will be one of the most valued and important, and for me, I think it'll probably be the most valued and important championship the team has ever won, just because of the roller coaster ride the team and its fans have had to endure through. Like you said, you mentioned China, you mentioned David Stern's passing, you mentioned Kobe Bryant and his unfortunate death, and all the things that the Lakers have had to go through, small or big, ups and downs, every part of the way. So I wanted to just say right now that I think this would go down as the Lakers' best championship should they win it, or anybody else out there, should they win it under these type of circumstances. It's got to be the biggest feather in their cap.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that, because this is the first time in my lifetime a lot of people can say that they've ever dealt with something of this pandemic that's going on. Usually, when you have a lockout season, it's usually due to money or sides not agreeing, whether it be ownership or the Players Association not agreeing on something. But this was a global pandemic that affected the whole world and pretty much stopped everybody's life in its tracks. And the fact that they're able to come back after 3 months, obviously the first couple games are going to be sloppy, as they always are when you see preseason games, they come back during the summer. But, we were robbed of a really fantastic end of the season, with the Western Conference being the way it is, with Memphis being in that 8th spot, New Orleans catching behind them, and then the East was getting a little tighter too, as well, as far as Milwaukee and Boston and Toronto climbing up and trying to catch them. So we were robbed of a great regular season finale, and we had to settle for what we have right now. But I think the NBA has done a fantastic job doing what they're doing, and I think they should all be credited for what they did.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more.
This is Raphael from NBADraftJunkies.com, and you are listening to the Lakers Fast Break.
Check out what's been going on with the Pop Culture Cosmos Show and the PCC Multiverse.
That is by far my favorite, because it's also character-driven and the stakes are high and there's much more of a mystery and intrigue to it.
A game like Wolfenstein, which people are saying are one of the most socially important video games of the past 10 years.
Catch our shows on radio worldwide 7 days a week, or at any time on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or on over 30 more podcast outlets. Once again, I'm on with Melvin Washington III. He is on Talk2ME Sports Radio Online. You got to go ahead and catch it today on Blog Talk Radio. I've got the site, again, right up there for our Facebook Live viewers, but it's Talk2Me, all one word with the number 2 in the middle, Sports Radio. It's a great show, and you got to catch it as soon as possible. If you're into sports like I am, it's the place to go. It's Talk2Me Sports Radio, Blog Talk Radio. But before we get to you explaining why people need to check it out, because I can say the greatest things about it, but I want you to give people better insight on Talk2Me Sports Radio. I want to hear your thoughts on the bubble itself and the way the season's going to progress, and of course the playoffs. I want to hear your thoughts on who is going to be, or who are going to be the standout teams in your mind as far as coming up here in the bubble playoff season scenario that we're about ready to see.
I do agree with the way the teams that they selected to go in the bubble. I think the teams, were in the playoff hunt. And a lot of players were kind of upset, especially like Damian Lillard for the Portland Trail said that he wasn't going to be going to play had his team not had a shot to win, to be in the playoffs. So I think the NBA did a really good job of selecting teams they did select. Obviously, one of the big reasons why I think they are having the bubble back is not only LeBron James, but also Zion Williamson. He was coming on really strong for New Orleans, and he got that team up to the ninth spot in the playoffs. So I think the NBA is trying to make up for that money that they lost by bringing New Orleans back in there, and they have a great young team that's going on right now. So, I mean, I definitely think this playoff bubble does favor the more veteran leadership teams. So, such as like, obviously the Lakers with all the veterans that they have a couple championship players on their team. Also, with the Clippers too as well. With Kawhi Leonard coming off the season he did with Toronto last year, and then bringing in Paul George as well with Doc Rivers and all those guys. And then you have your kind of a dark horses like Utah. I don't know how their chemistry is going to work with with Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert after what happened with the whole COVID-19 outbreak that kind of sparked the suspension of the season with that. And then you have a team like Houston who was kind of, they're kind of playing that money short ball now. They traded all their bigs and kind of running that small ball, so they look like a team that could make some noise in the Western Conference too as well. But I do see it like a Lakers Clippers. There's never been a conference series that I can remember that where two teams shared a city, not only a city but also an arena, got to play on their home court for 4 games at a minimum, or only to a 7-game series. And then you look at the East, Milwaukee's kind of take a little bit of bump the road. Obviously, they had that bad road trip against the Lakers too as well. But, you had teams like Boston, who was on the up and coming, and then Toronto, who we didn't know what Toronto was going to be like. Yeah, they won the NBA championship last year, but them losing the finals MVP, we didn't know what kind of step they were going to take, but they had a couple young players that step up too as well. And then you look at, Philadelphia, obviously one of the biggest disappointing teams of the year this year. I mean, you lose 2 games at home, but your road record is under 500. And then Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons are battling injuries now. They're fully healthy. So let's see if they can climb out that 6th spot in order to make it up to that. Right now, if the season would end, they would play Boston right now. And that could be a favorable matchup for them because nobody can really stop Joel Embiid. But East is pretty wide open. I kind of see maybe I want to give Milwaukee a good shot, but Chris Middleton's such an X factor. He didn't play well last year in the playoffs. I really can't put my faith in him right now.
And remember, he said just recently that he has not picked up a ball during this pandemic.
Yeah, and I think, it's going to show in those couple scrimmages and those first couple of regular season games too as well. And if they want to lock up that number 1 seed, not only in the East Conference, but for, I don't know if really you want to call home court advantage when you're playing on the road, but you know what I mean? That does, you definitely want to get your players sitting too as well and get your rotation right too as well, because I know a lot of players are dropping out, so they got to minimize the rotations a little bit and try to get those new pieces into their rotation to make sure they have a good fit.
So before we get into your 2 finalists, whoever's going to come out on top, and you're right, when it comes to LA, that would have been a great scenario. In LA Western Conference Finals, the scenario where Big Brother, who all these years has been picking on Little Brother, mostly because Little Brother kind of deserved it for so many years for the ineptitude as an organization, but for all these years, Big Brother has beaten up on Little Brother, and you would have that David versus Goliath scenario. Unfortunately, that kind of goes away, and the fact that, I get the fact that the Lakers would have had 7 home games during that series. That's notwithstanding. It's just something that I would have loved to have seen. I know you would have loved to have seen as an LA sports fan as well, that to see that type of scenario, but it looks more and more like we're going to get it. But before we go into your 2 favorites for the finals, and then ultimate finals champion, I should say, give me a surprise team from the East and the West that might make some noise, maybe sneak into the finals perhaps.
In the West, I like Denver a lot. I think they've been very consistent the last couple of years, and I'm interested to see what Nikola Jokic looks like now since he lost all that weight. So, I mean, he's always been a big basketball player, to say the least. He uses his body very well. He's very agile. So it's interesting to see how he's going to look with his new weight loss and how that team's going to look. And if you look at the East, I think you got to look at Boston, man. They were playing really, really well before the break, and Kemba Walker being his first year there, and Jason Tatum has kind of turned into an all-star this year. He's turned into a top 5 player in that conference, and I like the way that Jaylen Brown is playing this year. They have their bench is a lot deeper with Marcus Smart playing now, so I kind of like Boston as a dark horse over there in the East.
I'm gonna agree with you on many accounts with Denver. It'll be interesting to see exactly, the slimmed down version of Jokic, how with coronavirus, that he's now trying to get over, how much even more slimmed down he's going to be, which, like you said, could be a little bit detrimental to the point where he may not have enough strength as far as at least early on as he tries to build it up. But Denver is a very talented team, very deep team, so they could go a long way in the playoffs. There's also the fact that you have on the East, Boston, and if Jason Tatum can play like Jason Tatum did against the Lakers earlier this year, or like he was when he was really blowing up for that few-week period of time while Kemba Walker's out of the lineup, they will go as far as Jason Tatum takes them. I firmly believe that. I have Houston and Philadelphia as my surprise teams, but Boston and Denver cannot be too far behind, because if Jason Tatum goes on a tear, he may be, outside of Giannis, the best player in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I was hesitant to say on Philadelphia just because of their chemistry right now. Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid have not played well together this year. When one of them is off the court, you see the team play a little bit better, but just collectively on the court, I don't know, man. I think Jimmy Butler kind of held that team together last year, and when he left, there was kind of no veteran presence in that locker room. I know they brought in Al Horford, but that was kind of they overpaid for him, though.
Yeah, that hasn't worked out.
They reached out for him to try to get him because they saw what Al Horford did to Joel Embiid when they played each other in the playoffs last year. So they're like, okay, let's bring the enemy to us, so that way maybe Embiid can learn how to play against a thick body big like that. But just their spacing hasn't really worked any well. I thought Ben Simmons would take a major lead this year with his jump shot, but he hasn't done that yet. So I'm just not sure if Philadelphia is ready to take that next step.
That's the thing, because if they do take that next step, their defense can be as good as anyone out there with the lineup that they could throw at people. But you're right, it hasn't meshed well so far, and that Jimmy Butler could have been very much, like you said, the glue that held them all together, but they didn't want to keep him. And Philadelphia so far this season has kind of paid the price for it. But they're all healthy. Maybe Ben Simmons might have found possibly a jump shot, maybe. But even if he didn't, Philadelphia is, depending on the matchups, if they play against a Boston and Jason Tatum is playing like a good player but not the great player we think he can play, that could be a situation where they match up very well because they have a front line that can really match up well against Boston. But it's all based on matchups, so we'll have to wait and see where at the end of the season these teams lie out after the 8 games. But that's some very deep insight. I've got Melvin Washington III. You got to go ahead and check out what he's doing today at Talk2ME Sports Radio Online on Blog Talk Radio. But before we head on out, I got to hear your thoughts on the actual finals teams, the 2 finals teams that you've got, and who will ultimately become the champion.
So in the Western Conference, I have the Lakers and the Clippers in the Western Conference Finals. I see that as a hard-fought series, but I think LeBron James is even more hungry than we probably ever seen him before, probably since he returned back to Cleveland. And I think Anthony Davis is the best complement, probably the best player that he's ever played with. The way that he's put up numbers, he's a lock for Defensive Player of the Year. So, I mean, I had that series going to 7, but ultimately I had the Lakers winning that series just based on their experience that they have within, with Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee and and Rajon Rondo. They have, and they're bringing in Deion Waiters and J.R. Smith, so they're added some punch off the bench too as well. In the East, I have Milwaukee and Toronto playing again in the Eastern Conference Finals, and I have Toronto winning that series. I just think what Nick Nurse is doing with those guys over there, and Fred VanVleet and Kyle Lowry and OJ Pakinov, I think what they're doing over there is very special. So I got the Lakers and the Raptors in the NBA Finals, and I got the Lakers holding up that trophy in 6.
No wonder I have this guy on. He's awesome. No, you're not required to go ahead and pick the Lakers, but it's always great when you do. because most of the guests I have on don't pick the Lakers. They're always picking the Bucks or Clippers. So it's great to hear that kind of insight that you agree with me. Because like you said, when it comes down to it, it's all about matchups. And when you have LeBron and AD, that's a hard duo to beat.
Yeah, and I think JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard have been really the anchors on that defense too as well, which allows AD to play his natural position at the 4 and not have him play at the 5 so much. So with those guys protecting the rim, grabbing rebounds, getting those alley-oop dunks, I definitely think it's a perfect fit for those guys too as well. And I'm really excited to see what the bench looks like. Obviously, losing Avery Bradley is a huge loss. He played really well in that Clippers game on that Sunday night game, but them bringing in Deion Waiters and J.R. Smith, guys who have playoff experience, guys who've won in the league before, get them some scoring off the bench where they didn't really have that at all. It was very inconsistent this year. We thought Kuzma was going to be that guy off the bench, but he's kind of struggled. And then you got Alex Caruso coming in, bringing his energy into the stage and everything like that. So I like where their bench is at too as well. Now, obviously, health is going to be a big issue. I commend Frank Vogel for keeping their minutes down a little bit. He's kind of played them all a little off the ball a little bit more too as well. He's kind of staggered their minutes a little bit. But obviously, losing Lyle Hollins, who was a great coach in Memphis, a great coach in Brooklyn too as well, as their defensive coordinator, as you say, will be a huge loss. But I think with their veteran team that they have, I think they will be able to adjust to that.
Hopefully the league will allow Lionel to have some type of communication with the team at some point in time during the game so he can give some insight and maybe a look that they're not seeing courtside. I don't know if you would call that an unfair advantage or whatnot, but I know there's a couple coaches like Jeff Bostelek will have the same issue with New Orleans where he's stepping out. So I'm hoping the league will allow it. I'm not sure that they will. I don't think they will. Usually they're kind of not bending when it comes to that, but I'm hoping that Lionel Hollins at some point will give them the kind of insight, whether it's at halftime or whether, just to help them make adjustments. Because I know he's not just going to be idly sitting by and just sitting on the TV watching the games.
I think when you're in this bubble, I think you got to consider all options as possible. Obviously, with him being over 3,000 miles away, I think he's going to have some sort of communication with the team, whether it be halftime. I don't know if he'll be able to do timeouts the way they normally used to do it. But I think, with the technology that we have right now, I definitely think that's something that the NBA should embrace. They have the new rule with the culture challenges this year. So they're embracing technology and embracing what the game is turning into now. So I definitely think they can play to that advantage and give some coaches access to things that they weren't previously accessed before. I mean, this isn't a Spygate. This is what we have to deal with being in the bubble now.
That's for sure. We'll leave that up to Belichick. We'll be back with more of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. Hey everyone, it's Gerald from the Lakers Fast Break podcast. Just want to give you a heads up on what's coming up over the next couple weeks right here at the Lakers Fast Break podcast. A ton of great guests, so please, if you don't follow us yet or subscribe, please do so wherever you get your podcast because there's a great lineup of guests I have coming along the way. Of course, we're going to have Rafael Barlow from the NBA Draft Junkies always on our show. Tom Wong from Lakerholics.net, also regular, and cannot thank both of them enough for being on our show. But we're going to have a lineup of guests for you. If you haven't seen already on our Facebook page, we've got a lot of great guests on the way. Check it out. NBA odds maker Rafael Esparza from Las Vegas. Got Melvin Washington III, also from Las Vegas. He's got a great show that happens every Friday on the Talk2ME Sports Radio Network on the Blog Talk Radio Network. Got Craig James coming up from the Final Score podcast on the Podcast City Network. Corey Harrison's also going to be on the show coming up from the Out of Bounds Sports podcast. Got Matt Moderno from the Believe in Wizards podcast. Eric Sklar from KFI AM 640 and the TSK Show podcast. He's scheduled to come on the show as well. Got Big Baby Jonathan Stoffel from the Big Baby Jonathan Sports podcast. Got to check out his awesome show. He's coming up on the program here coming up in the very near future. Michael from the RTF Sports Network. Got to check out his awesome sports network that we are a part of each and every week right here at the Lakers Fast Break podcast. Got to check out Michael's great stuff that he's doing there. Chris Jose LeBron, the Off the Ball podcast host. He's going to stop by the program. JB Ellis from the Program podcast. He's also going to come by, share his thoughts on the NBA scene. Cole Johnson from Cole Sports, Snowman Digital Media, and the Get Over Divorce programs. He's going to come by on the show. And Fago White Franklin III from Fox Sports 1340 AM Hopewell. He's going to come on and share his NBA thoughts as well. I'm looking forward to it. It's a great lineup of guests. I've recorded some already. I've got many more on the way. And of course, that doesn't even include our NBA mock draft that's also coming right here, number 2.0, with a ton of great draft insiders. That's also coming up. All these great shows, you can check it out right here at the Lakers Fast Break Podcast. Before we head on out, it's just been such a pleasure having you on the program. I definitely want to bring you back on as we continue the bubble going forward. I'd love to have you back on the show anytime you can come back on. Once again, it is Melvin Washington III from Talk2ME Sports Radio Online at Blog Talk Sports. But before we head on out, I want you to, of course, I'll say it. I want you to sell our listeners why people need to check out your show, Talk2ME Sports Radio, or anything else you got cooking that you want to go ahead and let our listeners know about, and also our viewers as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I host The Lounge. It's every Friday night, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. So I do my show. I go to different casinos on the Strip. So I host it at different casinos live, usually the M or the South Wing, where they usually have a big high betting presence there, or sometimes maybe even Caesar's Palace. So most of my shows is revolved around, sports gambling too as well. During the NFL season, we usually do Beat the Host, where we have contestants call in and see how many. We do like a little parlay card to see how many games they can get wed based on the line that's given and everything like that. So I have a terrific co-host in Indiana who does a really good job. He analyzes. He has his own segment that he analyzes. The best plays coming in each week of football. We do a lot of stuff with college football, and we usually just do a lot with the betting side of sports, given people who don't really understand how to bet. Some tools on how to bet and what to look for as matches and playing the odds and everything like that. So if you guys are ever interested, like I said, Lounge will Talk2ME Sports Radio every Friday night. I hope to hear from you guys soon. And then we've been off the air for a couple of weeks, but we're looking to get back on once the bubble gets back up and rolling.
And that's every Friday night on Talk2ME Sports Radio. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. So it's going to be 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific.
Sweet. You got to catch it on Fridays, please. That's something you don't want to miss. It's right there on Blog Talk Radio, Talk2ME Sports Radio. You got to go ahead and be a part of his great show on that platform from here in Vegas. And I got a chance to talk to Rafael Esparza, Vegas odds maker. So it's great. I get all these Vegas vibes from all these locals here in the Vegas, Henderson, Green Valley area. That it's always kind of nice because I'm always talking to people from around the world and all over the country, and it's kind of nice when I get to talk to people right down the street almost.
Yeah, I mean, Vegas gets a different insight on sports. You know what I mean? Because we host a lot of different sporting events each year with the NBA Summer League and everything like that. So we have a different brand about Vegas with the professional teams that we have coming in, and the way that sports gambling is the way it is, and the way that the professional teams have embraced it. With MGM and the Caesar's Palace and all those guys. Putting up marquees and sponsorships as well. So it's becoming more acceptable to, it's part of your daily routine. You wake up in the morning, you turn on ESPN, and then you go on, check the paper and check the internet for the odds on the games that week. So you know what I mean? So it's become part of your sporting life.
Absolutely. Got to go ahead and enjoy it and appreciate everything that's here as far as, yes, everything does revolve around the gambling here in Las Vegas, but there's so much more of just being part of the culture in Vegas. It is kind of like a bowl that we're here in Green Valley because we're all surrounded by mountains. I feel like we're always in a bowl. But this bowl has just been so great for me for so many years now, and it sounds like it's been great for you too, because you go ahead and you check out all the awesome places on the Strip that I've frequented as well. That's always something great to go ahead and check out each and every time. Your show is on every Friday night. Well, it's coming back on Friday night when the NBA bubble starts really getting into gear. That you can check out at Talk2ME Sports Radio on Blog Talk Radio. But before we head on out, I want to ask you this. The NBA here in Vegas, you think someday it'll happen?
I believe so. I mean, if you would have asked me this 10 years ago after what happened at the All-Star game a couple of years ago, I definitely would have said no. But I think Adam Silver is watching how sports gambling has become a huge part of sports nowadays, and he's seen the success of the Golden Knights, and now with the Raiders coming here. The Raiders is a top 5 iconic franchise in the NFL. So if they can make it work, why can't we get a team that can make it work? You know what I mean? So I've heard rumors about Phoenix not reportedly being happy with their facilities that they have out there. So they might be in the market to probably relocate. Would I say we'd be the favorite to get a team? I think, to be honest, I'd rather see Seattle get a team before we will, just because, Seattle is such an iconic franchise, with Gary Payton, also with Sean Kemp, and then they had, KD played his first year in Seattle. So they've had such an iconic franchise for an iconic city too as well. But I think Vegas, we're a lot closer to getting an NBA franchise than I think we ever were in the past. So I'm pretty excited about that.
As am I. I don't think there's any more excuses. You're exactly right. Seattle deserves it first. They got hosed over. There's just no two ways about it as far as the Seattle Supersonics are concerned and how that ended up. So they obviously will get first dibs, but there's no more excuses for Vegas anymore about the gambling. Is there enough population? I mean, the success of the Golden Knights and the hopefully future success for the Las Vegas Raiders will go ahead and just put that stamp of approval for Adam Silver if they want to go ahead and expand or move a team, that Las Vegas would be a great option for them as well.
Yeah, and there's a reason why they host the Summer League every year. You see how the Summer League generates all the people that are come here. I mean, the same, like last year when they had Zion Williamson here, I didn't see an empty seat in Thomas and Mack. People were buzzing about that. And then the year before when they had Lonzo Ball come in here. And even this year, I mean, obviously not going to do this year, but this is a great rookie class that would have had people lined up for Summer League with James Wiseman from Memphis. You have LaMelo Ball and Anthony Edwards. This is a really good draft class that we got robbed of for Summer League this year. There's a reason why Las Vegas hosts the Summer League every year, because we bring people here from all walks of life for all teams too as well. And if you imagine you have that during a regular season with the finals, possibly with all-star games and everything like that, they do USA basketball here too as well. So the NBA has a very long-standing relationship with Las Vegas, and I think adding a franchise would even make that relationship even stronger than it is now.
It's so funny because Rafael Barlow from NBA Draft Junkies, one of my good friends as far as that's on the show constantly, he talks about how Lonzo Ball ruined Summer League for him because he doesn't have that access like you once did, that I once did as well, when you would just go there, pay $15 for the whole day, and you walk in and you'd be sitting right next to NBA coaches and GMs and players and all that. Sparse crowd, and you'd be able to go ahead and sit anywhere you want. Those days, I think, are over for the Summer League.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at these players now with all these, especially since all these players are probably going to go to the G League now instead of going to college now. So a lot of these players are going to have more professional experience than they once did before. So it's definitely going to take Summer League up to a huge level that I thought I was never seen before. Because you look at players who previously played in the Summer League before, like Kevin Love and Kevin Garnett, Kevin Durant, Derrick Rose, all those guys who are borderline All Famers now. And you look at the new classes coming, the last couple of classes that came in with Zion and Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram and, Karl Anthony Towns, all those guys. It's kind of like the new wave that's coming in with these new classes that are coming up. So, I mean, Summer League is not what the way it was before. It's not something like, oh, I'm bored, I want to go to Summer League. It's a sought out event that, like you said, $15, you got to stay all day. And now you get up from your seat, you're not getting that seat back.
No, you're not getting that seat back. I know, either at the Cox Pavilion or at the Thomas and Mack. Well, I'll tell you what, Melvin, it's just been so great talking to you again. Once again, it's Melvin Washington III. You got to check out his show Friday nights at the Talk2ME Sports Radio Online Network on Blog Talk Radio. You catch his insight and social media. Do you have any way that people can ask you any questions on the NBA or sports in general?
Yeah, I mean, we have a Talk2ME Sports Radio page that we invite, different listeners to, fill out comments and blogs, stuff like that. Also, I'm on Facebook too, at Melvin Washington III. You can follow me on Instagram too at MelWash3. So I answer a lot of questions there. I always try to get new guests involved and make sure that anybody who has a sports voice can be heard. So make sure you get your opinion out there. We do friendly banter, friendly debates too as well. So it's just nice to hear different people's objectives and opinions on everything too as well. But we all do it in all fun.
Sounds good, my friend. I'll be listening, and I know a lot of other people will as well. Well, I'll tell you what, it's just been so great having you on. I cannot thank you enough. You got to come back on the show again, like I was asking. So hopefully you'll be able to provide more insight to our listeners and our viewers right here at the Lakers Fast Break Podcast.